Hello everyone, what's up? Welcome to the GMB channel. Hope you will enjoy our video. Before we begin, hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Here's the news title. Ouch. Kemi Badenoch upstaged by total non-entity after clashing. With Starmer and PMQs, Kemi Badenoch has hit her nadir at Prime Minister's questions. "Mr. Speaker, this is tedious," blurted Sir Keir Starmer, rather taking the wind out of this sketch writer's sails, because it really was. Dull, dreary, arcane, local newspaper stuff for the most part. Great for a headline in the Axminster Bugle or the Congleton Gazette, but no help at all for anyone who wanted to know what this government is really up to. I mean, it's not as if we are a nation on the brink of a catastrophic recession, facing unprecedented, unaffordable immigration, a never-ending cost-of-living crisis, propping up the laziest workforce this country has ever seen, and about to come to blows with our premier, trade partner and ally on the other side of the Atlantic, right? All under the auspices of a confederacy of dunces charged with running our country. There's a serious procedural point here, of course. Kemi Badenoch's performances at Prime Minister's questions are getting worse, not better. And today was her nadir. She should have learned the ropes by now, and she should be holding Starmer's feet to the flames every week, ruthlessly exposing the myriad of self-harming idiocies Starmer and his cohorts are inflicting on this nation of ours. It's an open goal, but Badenoch needs much smarter briefing from her support staff. She kicked off PMQs with the story of the Gaza Strip migrant using Ukraine war legislation to settle his family in Britain. An outrageous story indeed, but Sir Keir killed the matter stone dead, saying he agreed it was outrageous and his home. Secretary was looking at changing the law. An excellent response, and one which meant her. Ill-advised question had actually made the Labour man of straw suddenly look like a man of decisive action. She'd been bested, and she should have left well alone and moved on. But instead, she kept banging on with the same question, and each time she was made to look even more foolish. She has to do better than this. Only with her fifth question did Kemi finally hit a nerve, mentioning Starmer's jaw-dropping appointment of his buddy Lord Hermer as Attorney General. Now, Hermer may be a lovely fella, and as British as they come, but his recent legal CV looks like the Christmas list of ISIS and Vladimir Putin. He has represented such staunch advocates for Britain as ISIS traitor Shamima Begum, Irish republicanism's favorite son Jerry Adams, and he is one of the brains behind Britain handing over the Chagos Islands and paying jaw-dropping reparations for the privilege. And talking of reparations, he has also advised Caribbean countries on how they might prize trillions of pounds in reparations from you and me. A true Brit, then. Kemi accurately pointed out, there are very serious questions now being asked about the Attorney General, who is the Prime Minister's personal friend and donor. One Labour peer has called him the archetype of the arrogant progressive fool. But then she messed it all up by also bringing in the new Chief Inspector of Borders, who she claimed lives in Finland and wants to work from home. Because Starmer quickly and brutally pointed out he had actually been working from home for 5 years under the Tories, allowing him to ignore the more potent Attorney General question. Another piece of catastrophically poor briefing for Kemi. It was left to Ed Davey to do the actual grilling, which is the political equivalent of being savaged by a moth-eaten teddy. Bare Twitter response to Kemi's disastrous performance was swift and brutal. Tweeters talked of the ritual weekly humiliation of Kemi Badenoch by Keir Starmer, suggested, like the guy or not, Starmer still remains undefeated in PMQs, and perhaps most damningly of all, while Kemi Badenoch was going on and on pointless rants about the culture war, Ed Davey was looking after British industry. Ouch. We are told Kemi hates doing media and interviews and ducks them whenever she can, preferring where possible to send B-list replacements. But PMQs is not a thing to duck. It is where leaders, great leaders, stamp their authority on government, whether they are in or out of power. It is also where they shore up support both in the House and on the streets of Britain. If the Conservative Party is to have any hope of slapping down the existential threat from reform, Kemi needs to make everything else secondary to dominating the weekly Punch and Judy, show that is PMQs. Kemi Badenoch, upstaged by total non-entity. After clashing with Starmer in PMQ's introduction. Kemi Badenoch's latest performance at Prime Minister's Questions, PMQs, has been widely panned as her worst yet, a nadir in a series of increasingly lackluster showings. What should have been an opportunity to put Sir Keir Starmer on the defensive instead turned into a self-inflicted disaster. The Labour leader, often criticized for being wooden and uninspiring, emerged unscathed, while Badenoch floundered under poor briefing, lack of agility, and an apparent inability to pivot when her lines of attack failed. With an election looming, and the Conservative Party struggling to fend off both Labour and the insurgent threat of Reform UK, Badenoch's inability to dominate the dispatch box raises serious concerns. If she is being positioned as a future leader of the Tories, this week's PMQs suggests she has a long way to go before she can even credibly challenge Starmer, let alone rally a fractious Conservative base. The anatomy of a political car. Crash PMQs is a gladiatorial contest, a chance for party leaders and senior ministers to demonstrate their command over policy, rhetoric, and parliamentary maneuvering. Badenoch, however, came unprepared for battle. She opened with what should have been a politically explosive issue, a Gaza Strip migrant allegedly using Ukraine war legislation to settle in Britain. But Starmer, rather than being caught off guard, swiftly disarmed the attack. He simply agreed that it was outrageous and assured the House that his Home Secretary was reviewing the law. This response had two immediate consequences. It neutralized the controversy and made Starmer appear decisive. Rather than pivoting, Badenoch persisted, repeating the same point in different ways. Each attempt reinforced Starmer's ability to control the narrative while making her look stubbornly fixated on a dead-end line of questioning. By the time she moved on, she had already lost the round. Her fifth question should have been her strongest, challenging Starmer on his appointment of Lord Hermer as Attorney General, a man with a legal track record that reads like a rogue's gallery of anti-British activism. But she diluted this potent attack by conflating it with a weaker, easily rebutted accusation about the Chief Inspector of Borders living in Finland. Starmer swiftly countered that the official in question had been working remotely for 5 years under the Tories. The Attorney General question, which should have put Labour on the back foot, was lost in the noise of Badenoch's scattergun approach. The Twitter verdict: brutal and unforgiving political performances in the modern era are not judged solely within the hallowed walls of the Commons chamber. They are dissected, memified, and replayed endlessly on social media. Twitter's response to Badenoch's performance was immediate and scathing. Political commentators and ordinary users alike took turns mocking what they saw as her ritual weekly humiliation at the hands of Starmer. Some pointed out that, like the guy or not, Starmer still remains undefeated in PMQs. Others accused Badenoch of going on and on with pointless rants about the culture war, while Ed Davey, of all people, was looking after British industry. This kind of online pile-on matters because it shapes public perception. A bad PMQ's performance does not merely affect MPs in the chamber. It influences the electorate, journalists, and even Badenoch's own party members, who may begin to question her viability as a political heavyweight. Ed Davey, the unlikely winner? When the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Ed Davey, comes out of PMQs looking more competent than a senior Conservative, it is a damning indictment of the government's performance. Davey is not known for his parliamentary ferocity. Yet in this session, he managed to land a stronger blow than Badenoch by focusing on industrial policy, an area where the Tories should have had an advantage. By contrast, Badenoch got bogged down in ideological skirmishes that failed to resonate. The fact that Davey, often dismissed as a political lightweight, outshone a supposed Tory heavyweight underscores how much of an opportunity Badenoch squandered. What this means for Badenoch's leadership. Prospects Badenoch has often been touted as a future leader of the Conservative Party, a standard bearer for the right who could take on both Labour and Reform UK. But to be a leader, one must first master the art of parliamentary combat. Her PMQ's performances suggest she has not yet developed the sharpness or agility needed to command the dispatch box. Worse still, if she cannot improve, her reputation as a rising star will dim, and the Tory grassroots may begin looking elsewhere for a champion. A broader crisis for the Conservatives. Badenoch's struggles at PMQs are symptomatic of a larger problem for the Conservative Party, a crisis of leadership, coherence, and identity. The party faces challenges on multiple fronts. Labour is presenting itself as the party of stability and competence. Reform UK is siphoning off disillusioned Tory voters. The cost of living crisis continues to erode public trust. Against this backdrop, strong parliamentary performances are more critical than ever. Every weak showing from Badenoch not only damages her personal brand, but weakens the party's standing as a whole. Lessons from the greats. How to dominate PMQs historically. The most successful PMQs performers have understood the art of attack and defense. Margaret Thatcher used forensic precision to dismantle opponents. Tony Blair blended charm and ruthlessness. Boris Johnson used humor and bombast to deflect criticism. Badenoch needs to learn from these past masters. She must improve her briefing and be more selective in her attacks. Learn when to pivot and abandon a weak argument. Develop a sharper, more memorable rhetorical style. Stay on message and avoid unnecessary distractions. Conclusion. This week's PMQs was a disaster for Kemi Badenoch. She had a golden opportunity to expose Labour's weaknesses, but instead, she was outmaneuvered by Starmer and outshone by Ed Davey. If Badenoch is to fulfill her potential as a future Tory leader, she must dramatically up her game. Otherwise, she risks becoming a footnote in the party's history rather than a defining force in its future. One thing is clear. She cannot afford many more performances like this. So what do you guys think about this update? Let me know in the comment below. If you like my video, please press like button and subscribe for more. Hope I'll see you in next video.